Hello, hello. The season 12 premiere has arrived. Thank you for joining my guests and I on our 11th season journey so far. This upcoming season will stop all over the world to sit down with entrepreneurs who all have one thing in common: the desire to share their story to help other entrepreneurs succeed. And I am excited for today's show because not only do we have a veteran on the show, but he is a veteran of stand-up comedy. You've seen him on HBO, Fox News, The Late Late Show on CBS, Comedy Central, you name it. He's going to have his ups and downs to share with you. But first, it is time to learn how he podcasts. Rodney, which platform do you stream your shows through?
Spotify. Yeah. I'm still hyped from that introduction. I'm like, yeah, who is that? Who are they talking about? Yeah, me.
I'm glad you like the introduction. And one thing I like about Spotify, although I am Apple, they do the wrapped up. So my podcasts that are on Spotify, I get those cool results at the end of the year. When in the day do you find yourself listening to your shows?
Oh, definitely in the morning after meditation, and various times during the day because I like to listen to while I'm driving.
Right.
Which is all the time since I do stand-up comedy. So I'm in my car listening all the time, man, between podcasts and audiobooks.
So you always have it in the car stereo, in the headphones. That's how Rodney podcasts. I would love to hear how you do as well. Email me, info@vincentalancy.com, and I will feature you on a show. With that, I have to welcome you all back to That Entrepreneur Show. I am your host, Vincent A. Lancy. Thank you again for stopping by. You can learn more about me at vincentalancy.com or at Vincent A. Lancy on all social media platforms. If this is your first time with us, every single week since December 2019, I have sat down with the founder of a company or brand to share what worked for them, what they needed to improve on, and all of their lessons learned along the way. Right here on this show, there are also some bonus episodes for you to enjoy as well. You never know which motivational journey will inspire you most. They take you through their story, their ups and downs. And with that, we have a veteran on the show. Like I said, I am very happy to bring him on for that. But plus, he does a lot to help our entrepreneurial community too. As I mentioned, he was on Fox News, HBO, Comedy Central, and more. He chased his dreams until they were a reality. But it wasn't always starring on big networks. He's going to share all of those learning lessons in just a few moments. His hometown, Paterson, New Jersey, inspired the comedy, which has led to Laney's numerous television appearances. He has also discovered an innovative meditation that in 2013, he said he's sharing that with the world. So we may have a little bit of that coming on our way. I'm excited about it. He's got a book as well. What doesn't this guy do? It's called Lighten Up. We're going to hear him now. Rodney Laney, thank you so much for joining our community.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Benson, man. I feel blessed to be here, kicking off the premiere.
That's right, man. That's right.
Yeah, man. I'm just super excited, man. And like you said, this is one of those ups, I get to come out here and share my why for doing what I do, fulfilling this purpose, and continuing this entrepreneurial spirit, man.
You're certainly on your way, and I'm sure you have a lot yet to be accomplished, so we'll be in touch for that. But first, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience and previewing your story before we hop on to the business side?
Well, yeah, like you said, I'm from Paterson. I come from I don't even know how you would relate to social economic status, but I wasn't rich, that's for sure, coming from the hood. And so I think that once you can overcome some of the obstacles that are inherent in growing up in certain neighborhoods, and you can benefit from shows like this where other entrepreneurs kind of share their story and they inspire you, then you take on that message and just start taking steps. And so that's what I did. I did that. I started out, like I said, in Paterson. I went to the military, increased my exposure, started working as a clinical scientist. I did that for a number of years at Hackensack Medical Center, but there was always something I wanted to do more. There was a lot of insecurity that came with the job. A lot of people get security from their jobs, but not me. because I got fired a lot, Vincent. So just to wrap this whole thing up, so that's what. So I started stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy led to this blossoming career as a comedian. I landed on numerous television shows, including Comedy Central. My very first television show was in Europe, was amazing. It was my first time across the big pond, and to be taken over there for something I created was amazing. That was one of those highs. Literally, as I was flying over the pond, I was high. And so that came to fruition. And then we'll talk about the lows a little bit later.
Yeah.
And pursuing your dreams and realizing that those were the things that was making me happy and needed to evolve a little bit more. Then I found this meditation, which led to this book, which led to this podcast, which is leading to much more things, man. So
yeah, well, you took that leap. You mentioned you always wanted to do something more. Was there a moment, like an exact moment you can recall when you finally made that jump to entrepreneurship? Was there a last day at work? Was there something that really kicked you in the butt to that right direction? Or what started this journey?
Yeah, right. So this is what I knew when it was time for me to leave, when I just stopped caring about like, if anybody says something to me, it's on and popping. But at the same time, I kind of transitioned out, which I think is a big point to make. Because some people believe like you just gotta hop, you just gotta do it. And that may work for some people. But what I did was I kind of transitioned from working as a clinical scientist into stand-up comedy. So that it was I kind of got forced out. And also needing to take that leap of faith. Because a lot of times you won't understand how the universe will unfold for you. You just have to trust it. And being on the other side of that, trying to convince people to take those very same steps, it seems like it's an enormous obstacle for a lot of people.
You
just gotta trust it. I can't tell you how it's gonna happen. You just gotta know that it will happen.
You have to really just believe in yourself. And it's very cliche, but it's just the truth that if you're unhappy, he mentioned he stopped caring. Don't waste this precious thing called life. We have a finite amount of time. It is not going on forever. Make the jump. I'm sure it wasn't easy or quick for him, but he did make that jump. And once he did, a lot of things were hard. I'm sure you realize that it's not easy to do everything on your own. What would you say the two hardest parts of being an entrepreneur are for you?
Well, so once I really got into stand-up comedy, right? So the hardest thing, without a doubt, was missing out on significant events in the family or in friends. Everything happens on the weekends, as you know, and that's when entertainers go to work. So I always had to give the caveat. Look, I don't know if even my sister was getting married. I was like, listen, I know you want me to be part of your wedding. I know how important that is to your sister, even though this is your 5th one. Anyway, no. But it was just kind of hard to convince somebody, like, I'm not sure if I could be there. And it depends. Like, it depends on what level you are. So especially in the beginning, it's kind of hard to take off. And I lost friendships because of it. Yeah, so that was definitely very difficult. Still remains a little bit, but now that I'm a little bit more established, I can pick and choose.
Right. In the beginning, you're bottlenecking, you're bootstrapping, you're on your feet, and at a company, your role can be very time intensive, but you have one role amongst the company. When you're on your own, you are the entire company.
You are the entire
little
company.
Type of things. I've really strayed back from social media of late because of how time intensive it is, and I focused more on things that can monetize me directly. I realized a school or an organization isn't going to not bring me in because I don't post every single day. That may hurt my followers, but I still have my presence there. And that's, you're hard on yourself as an entrepreneur. You want everything to go great, but I've really come to realize that, okay, my presence is there. I'm posting at least weekly. The content's there. Today, I had 2 great meetings, one with a nonprofit founder here in Tampa and another with the university to try to get my books distributed on a large scale, make a difference on a large scale. Great points there, Rodney. I really appreciate that perspective. I hope you have something else for us.
Yeah, definitely. And to tag along what you're saying, because social media will probably be the second.
Yes, let's piggyback off that. Yes.
Yeah, and somebody who's, even though I might not come across as an introvert, I kind of like, I am, I mean, I'm always, I tend to reside in my head a lot and start on much more profound mental activities as opposed to sharing, what I'm eating and things of that nature. So, but that's part of being evolving. So you don't want to just be like, I don't want to do that. You kind of have to remain open. This is where meditation helped me out too. Instead of having this rigid concept of how I think things should be, I have to stay in the present moment and do the things that's necessary to and be very flexible when it comes to things like that, where you have to grow.
Right.
Otherwise, if you're not growing your business, then your business is decaying.
Yeah, the learning never stops. The growing never stops unless you want it to. Sometimes it just takes a little longer. It's a little harder. You have to, there it is, bootstrapping again, coming up, go door to door, do the cold message, go to the cold emails. Times are changing right now, especially post-COVID. Things we learned are never going to stay the same. You have to be prepared to adapt, keep growing, keep learning. More great advice there, Rodney. And you mentioned it was difficult transitioning from the steady life to the entrepreneurship. There might have been some failures or lessons learned along the way. Can you describe one of those for our audience?
Well, the biggest failure for me actually happened early on in my comedy career, because no one really tells you like how to progress in stand-up, and especially when I started some years ago. So there was before people who are doing what you're doing, these podcasts or in YouTube videos. You just had to go out there and trial by fire. So one thing I didn't understand was like, after you bomb on stage, you need to get back on stage immediately. You got to get that stank off you, or otherwise you just wallow in it and you start thinking, you have those depressing thoughts. I'm not funny, and blah, 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 blah. And no one ever told me that. And so when the very first time I got on stage, well, actually not the very first time, but because the very first time was great. That's where I got bit by the bug. But then a couple of months later, when I was in the Air Force, I did another show that didn't go well. And because I was still learning clinical science, I kind of got away from comedy because it just hurt. It just hurt. And I didn't have the one thing that's super important for beginning entrepreneurs is resilience. And so I didn't have the resilience at that time. And so fast forward, as I do stand-up comedy now, these bombings or these failures in front of people, they don't last, because I know immediately to get back on stage and try it again, or try something again, no matter what endeavor you take, because you'll learn from that. You'll learn from your failure, and don't let your failure overcome you, overcome that failure. And so resilience is definitely a lesson that I learned later on. And if I had learned it earlier, I'd probably be a lot further along in my career. That's one thing. The other thing is having like a detailed plan. And I didn't even have that with comedy. And so once you have a detailed plan, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs, you don't know how to navigate, because everything sounds good. If you don't have a focus point, especially in this world where everybody's trying to get your attention and everything sounds wonderful and lucrative. And so you end up spending too much of your energy chasing things that are not in line with your true focus. But having a detailed plan, really sitting down with yourself, and I'll go back to meditation, really getting inside yourself and understanding what your purpose is, what your why is, and follow that, write that down, and then execute.
Going back to that why again, confidence, I think, also plays a role to what you started, because I can directly relate to it. In the beginning, I wasn't resilient. I wasn't persistent because I wasn't fully confident. There's some part of me that was doubting myself for whatever reason. I was doing real estate, financial rising, also having one foot in, one foot out, never really willing to forego that money right away. But once you do it over and over and over again, the confidence brings up. And then that's where persistence and resilience really come into fact. My mental health podcast, for example, when I started that show, My first book, Left for Dead, had just came out. I researched top mental health influencers in the country. Sent every single one of them cold emails, cold Facebook, cold LinkedIn, you name it. Resilient, like out of 50 messages, I think I got like 9 answers. Out of that, I had 5 people on the show or something. To show you that's failing 80%, 85%. But it was a success because Dr. Denise and I become friends. She was on that. Through her networking with her, she introduced me to the illustrator for my 3rd book, who shout out to Chris Bridge. She's done work with the Barbara Bush Foundation, Whole Foods, real big name. She's been a star in my books now. So it just goes to show you, if you don't want to be persistent, don't be an entrepreneur, because most likely your day is not going to go as planned. Even on Friday, I had 6 meetings scheduled, 6 appointments. Only 2 of them ended up happening, 4 reschedules. and right there, that's everything. Let's just like, you hope for the best, but just prepare for the worst. And then through that worst, you'll find a learning lesson in it. Planning out is very, very huge for me. And I agree with you on that as well. But now we're going to delve a little deeper here. Rodney, if you could have a conversation with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, anywhere in the world, who you got?
That's a very interesting question because for me, it kind of depends on my mood. It would be like, who could I talk to right now? But if I had to come up with 2 consistent personalities, obviously, well, I won't say obviously, but for me, Oprah would be one for obvious reasons.
What hasn't she done?
Yeah, right. And I feel like if I could sit down with Oprah and for 2 reasons, because obviously she could impart so much knowledge on the business, but she has spoken with so many spiritual people as well. So I would just like to be in her presence, with where she'd be free to speak, because obviously being who she is in a public situation, there are some constrictions, and especially in this day and age. Right. So she would definitely be one of them. As far as entrepreneurs, I would love to speak with Dave Chappelle, honestly.
Chappelle's Show season 1. I think I was an 8th grader, so I must have watched that DVD 1,000 times. Never laughed so hard.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think I would sit around, and I have a couple of cool friends who actually hangs out with him. I never had he bumped me off a show one time years ago, and that was an honor for me. I got bumped off the show by Dave Chappelle. And I watched him go up and do 45 minutes of some crazy material. But he too is probably can offer so much as far as the comedy game that I'm still looking to learn. And watching what he did with his Chappelle Show, with just his Instagram post, and how he was able to get Netflix behind him.
Yep.
And that's a very powerful thing. I don't know if people
insane. Yeah.
That's crazy how him just going out there expressing his feelings, and now the ramifications of that is the fiduciary reward is crazy. I can't even imagine what it is. But anyway, so yeah, I would definitely love to talk to them too on this secular plane. You know,
2 incredible answers, both incredible work ethics, both follow their dreams until they got what they got. Oprah, I love that story because they started a radio show or something. They didn't want her show. And then the whole story, she's incredible, but I'm going to delve a little deeper here for you, Rodney. If you could pick a place to meet, where you meeting Oprah, where you sitting down with Dave?
That's, you know what it would probably be, I would probably have to meet them somewhere where they're comfortable. Now that I think about it, I would probably meet them at their home, like Dave's ranch, wherever Oprah, because I would want them to be comfortable. It wouldn't be where
You're only the 2nd, maybe 3rd person to say I'd rather be on their home turf so they're comfortable. As of now, when we're recording this, I think we're airing episode 155. So very elite company you put yourself in. I respect it, because if you're delving into someone's brain, if they're relaxed, you're going to get more out of it. But let's look into the future before it is time for that spotlight story. What's next for you? What do you have in the works?
Well, So my book just was published September 28th. That was the pub date. So this is in full, like this is my focus right now.
What's the name of the book? Where can we find it?
Oh, wherever you find books. I'm a published author, so you can get it from Amazon, BAM, obviously, Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give our audience a quick sneak peek of what Lighten Up, his book, is all about.
Lighten Up is a hilarious memoir, if I must say so myself, about me growing up in Paterson and all the tribulations I faced growing up in grammar school. And it's I walk you through this path of this wonderful meditation that I discovered called reflective meditation. And it is part of this in reflective meditation, you discover all your cardinal memories. These are the memories that I call them cardinal because they're controlling memories. Okay. These are the memories that happened in your past that change you. It created a turning point in your life. And in this sequence of events that we call life, things started to change a little bit. Create your perspective, controls your behavior, and your personality, right? And so as you're navigating through these two different poles of your desires, right? We all have desires and we all have fears. And these cardinal memories kind of have you teetering between these two. And you learn so much about yourself by reflecting that it releases you from your past, so to speak. And then you have this expansion.
Right.
And so you become more powerful but it comes through self-reflection because you get it from yourself, not some external source, where all true inspiration comes from.
Where it does, all true inspiration comes from within. Find it within yourself, put yourself in an environment to have those thoughts really be provoked. I think that because we were planning on having him on Writing with Authors, I'm thinking me and him are going to do a book swap first so I can get this book first and we can talk about it on Writing with Authors. At least I can read a chapter of it before we start so I can give good insight. It looks like a beautiful cover that fits the book very well. You're going to have to wait to look at that cover in the show description right now. You can find a link to his book and check it out. Grab a copy for yourself. I mentioned how he was a veteran on the show. So for this week's Spotlight story, we're going to have the journey of another veteran announced. If it's your first episode with us, at the end of each episode, I share the entrepreneurial journey of a fellow entrepreneur to inspire you, the listeners, with a new perspective on the story. This former veteran turned entrepreneur's name is Dave Publik. He served as a U.S. Army sergeant in Korea before starting his own business. In 1974, Dave founded Professional Building Maintenance, Inc., which was a janitorial service company, and actually started experimenting with franchising in the early 90s when he founded Anago International. Present day, this company operates offices in both the US and South America. This is early franchising here we're talking. I wanted to put some quotes in that I found valuable and inspiring. The skills I learned in the military will be used over and over in directing an organization. These include giving orders, building a team, establishing work orders, sequences of responsibility, monitoring for quality control, writing job descriptions, and trust. But then he went on to say that one skill stuck out above all the rest. Quote, as a radio operator for S3 Battalion HQ, I learned the importance of communication. In the military, good communication can save lives. In business, good communication can help companies thrive. In the business world, leaders need to be able to convey their messages clearly and effectively, and it taught me the importance of active communication. Rodney, I love how he highlights communication and translating lessons he learned from the military to regular life and, importantly, business. What's your takeaways?
Oh, definitely. Communication is a key component in entrepreneurship and relationships. In life in general, man, if you can communicate with anyone, that just opens doors. And communication is particularly vital as a stand-up comedy, because the setup is so important, right? So if if I have a setup and a joke, and a person misses one word, depending on how economical the joke is, they won't get the punch.
Mm-hmm.
So and then tweaking that. So communication is very vital. And I think listening is probably underrated when it comes to communication. So being an effective communicator, but listening is something I do intently, and I think that makes me. I guess that feeds my curiosity because I'm naturally curious. So I always want to listen to other people. And that's how I get my takeaway. That's how I get my material most of the time, by listening to people.
I love how you directly related that to your profession. A story about a janitorial service and the military. We're talking about communication. You just explained exactly why it is just so important. You have to know your target audience. You have to know your target market. You have to portray right to them, because if they miss one word, one sentence, one something, you may miss the customer, miss that sale, miss that joke, miss that contract. And with that, Rodney, I got to thank you so much for coming on this show and starting up season 12. The learning lessons were endless. You talked about when you stopped caring about your job, you knew it was time to leave. Don't waste time. We also talked about evolving when we spoke about social media. And of course, resilience, persistence, planning you touched on, as well as communication. Excellent work today. Please now share with our audience your last word.
My last word, what my last word would be, ultimately, I believe that self-reflection is important. At the end of the day, if you sit back and self-reflect on yourself, on your biases, judgments, the actions that you've taken, you will become a better person, a better business person, a better father, mother, daughter. It's a better person. And as we each become better people, we become a better society. So take the time, reflect, and laugh. Lighten up, man. You gotta lighten up.
Love the last word. Now, please tell all of our listeners and supporters where they can find you, where they can support you, where they can request your services, where they can say hello.
Well, yes, I'm RodneyLaney.com is a good place to start. It's my website. And if you guys want to laugh, you want to say this guy's really funny, you can go to Dry Bar, Rodney Laney Dry Bar. And they're actually, if you use my name in the subscription, you get a month off of the subscription. But you can see where all of these jokes and this book comes from. I'm Comedy Rod on Instagram, and The Real Rodney Laney on Instagram, Rodney Laney on Facebook. And that's about it, man. Remember, it's all in here. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, we're going to have in the show description, it will have the link for his book that we spoke about and the Drive Bar link. I'll have him email me that right now. That way I have it in my email. We'll put that in the description as well, so you can check out all his comedy stuff. And while you're checking all out his great content, take a look at us too. From VincentALancy.com, you can find exclusive content, and we are at That Entrepreneur Show on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Twitter, as you know, is Podcast by Lancy, so you have updates from all of my shows. Remember to find me at Vincent A. Lancy on YouTube and social media. And if you check out my books, let me know what you think. The most recent is Mental Health Week. It's time to end the show with a quote. And this one is from our Spotlight Entrepreneur, and it relates to the overall message of communication. As the CEO of Inago, it is my duty to create the message for the entire system, and my training really helped with that. Go out of your way, everyone listening on, take the training, get the certifications, or just get the real world experience. Leverage that to help you become a leader. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week for episode 2 on That Entrepreneur Show. Rodney, thank you again.
Yo, my man.